Good to see you today on Barlow BBQ. Today we've got a rack of beef back ribs that we're going to smoke on the pit barrel cooker. Let's get ready to barbecue. Alright y'all, before we get started, let's talk about some beef ribs just for a moment. Now there are two different kinds of beef ribs that you can find in stores. The most common type is beef short ribs. They got like the fat, thick cap of meat on top of the bone's right underneath it, and you can usually find these cut up into like little squares. Now what we're using today is the beef back rib, which is cut from a different part of the animal. The beef back rib, actually right on top of those ribs is the cut of prime rib, okay? So the butchers cut or trim off that prime rib section, and then you're left with the beef back ribs. They have prime rib meat on them, so that flavor of meat is just as good as your prime rib. But the catch with the beef back ribs is you'll often find them really gouged out between the bones, okay? Because the butcher is trying to get all of that prime rib meat off that rack as he can, okay? If you find that lucky rack like we did today that still has a lot of meat on it, grab it because it's worth it. All right, so let's take a look at what we're working with today. We've got about a 3.5 pound rack of beef back ribs here, and these do have a membrane on the back just like pork ribs, okay? So you've got to remove that. That's what I did. And if you're uncertain how to remove a membrane, just look it up on YouTube or Google. It's really easy to do, but I thought I wouldn't waste your time with it so we can just keep things moving along. Now, when it comes to seasoning these, I wanted to stick with something that's really simple. So I'm just using some salt, pepper, and garlic because I want the meat to speak for itself, all right? So we're gonna put a nice layer on both sides, and I'll have the recipe for the rub right down below. I think it's 3 parts black pepper, 2 parts salt, 1 part garlic. All right, these are looking really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the fridge, give it a little bit of time for that rub to set up on there, and we can let those hang out in the fridge while we get the pit barrel fired up. Let's go. All right guys, this is how I've got my setup to light the pit barrel. What I did was I filled up this basket right here all the way with charcoal, and then from that I removed 40 briquettes, and that's what I've got right here in this charcoal chimney. And by the way, I'm using Kingsford long burning charcoal. The claim is that it burns up to 25% longer. We'll see about that. So what I'm going to do is light this, and that should be ready in about 15 to 20 minutes. It's been 20 minutes and this charcoal is ready, so let's go ahead and get that in the pit barrel. Get my rebars back in there, and I am using some hickory chunks today, so I've already got those in there. Let's close her up and give it about 10 minutes to kind of get warmed up and come up to temp. It's been 10 minutes and it's time to get those beef back ribs on the pit barrel. Now here's my plan. I'm gonna let these smoke until they hit probe tenderness. All right, I'm not gonna worry about taking temperature at all. When that probe feels like it's going into soft butter, these ribs are gonna be done. And I'm not gonna wrap, no spritzing or nothing like that. I'm gonna let the pit barrel do all the work. So let's get this covered up and we'll check back in a couple hours and see how they're doing. All right, y'all, these beef ribs have been smoking for 2 hours on the pit barrel. Let's check them out. Folks, these are looking awesome and they're smelling just as good. And you can see we've got a little bit of pullback happening right up here at the top. So I'm just gonna get the lid back on these and let them rip for another couple hours, and I'll see you then. The beef ribs have been on for a total of 4.5 hours. Let's check them out. These are looking awesome, guys. Check out the pullback on the bones over here. And I'm just gonna check for tenderness. Okay, these are done. This feels like it's going into soft butter. That's what I'm cooking to, is tenderness. Not worried about temperature. There we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these off the pit barrel, let them rest for like 30 minutes to an hour, then we'll try them out. All right, we got one big old beef rib right here. Let's give it a try. Oh yeah. I tell you what, this bite comes clean off the bone and it's super tender, still a little bit juicy, not dried out at all. Try another bite, huh? And that flavor is so good. You really don't need a lot of seasoning or rub for this cut of beef back ribs. The flavor is built into it, all right? I really recommend that you give this a try. Really easy to do. It only took 4.5 hours for a 3-pound rack of ribs, so not too bad. I'm gonna get inside and get out of this wind and let Martha try out the ribs. She's not feeling too well today, so unfortunately she couldn't join us. But I wanna thank you for hanging out with me today. It's always awesome to see you, and I hope you enjoyed the video. We love you, and until next time, smoke 'em if you got 'em. Bye-bye.